Howdy. I'm going to put that down. My name is Mehraban, and I'm really honored to speak to you today. Watching that last TED Talk, really, it kind of shows you the gravity of speaking at TED. You know, I kind of look at this as my first TED Talk, and I say first because I'd like to do more. And when you see a talk like that, or some of the talks we've seen today, it inspires you to do more. Today I'm going to talk about my class. Now, if you think of this, the New Media Driver's License course at Michigan State University, it's a class I teach, right? It's something that I've worked very hard to attain. Now, is it my magnum opus? Is it the best thing ever in my life? Not necessarily. I don't necessarily know. But the point is, it's something that I've done. It's something that we've built. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about how I got there to that point of teaching students at Michigan State University, which in my opinion is one of the greatest gifts you could ever do, is to teach others. You know, just looking at these kids, and it's incredible. You know, so that's really a great gift. And then really talking about what is the goal here. You know, so my class may be on new media and maybe on social media, but what does that mean? You know, I think the goal is, and what I'd like to show to you today, is that you can enjoy your work. You can enjoy your life. You can do what you want to do and live your dreams. And that's kind of what I'm doing. And it shocks me. You know, that woman that Eat, Pray, Love, and it's funny because my wife didn't like that book, but she gave a great talk. She gave a great talk. You know, I could relate to that because I'm a creative. Okay, I come from a creative background. I'm half Persian, half Polish, and I look Irish. You know, I come from a diverse background. My parents are here, so I'm really glad they were able to come out. But the point is, you know, you come from this diversity, and then you're a 6'4" redhead, right? And you're thrown into like the Catholic school system, and kids are mean, man. You know, the redhead thing. And but whatever, it's like you learn and you grow. And every experience that I've had makes me who I am today. Okay, and you wonder, what are you doing up in front of me at TEDx? Right? Am I lucky? Did I work hard to get here? Yes. But also, like Charlie Wahlberg, like Terry Bean, I am compelled to do things like this. You know, when Charlie called and said, hey, listen, Derek, you know, we're going to have TEDx in Detroit, okay? And I need you to help. You know, it's like, you got to answer the call, man. You know, you got to answer the call. And I did. I said, okay, let's do it. You know, let's do it. And I helped, and the team helped. And it's compelling to me to put on events that might change someone's life, okay? So when I look at this class, what am I doing? I'm changing people's lives for the better, okay? I have students coming in who are, you know, whether they've been in the business for 10 to 20 years or whether they're in school, they need to understand this in order to be competitive in today's marketplace. And let me back up a little bit. I'm actually not going to use my slides. Actually, you know, we built a really nice presentation, but I'm not going to use the slides because slides are restraining. You know, when that woman was talking, it made me realize, you know, as a creative individual, it's okay. And then on the back wall back here, it says, if you don't know what to do, follow your heart. All right, so no slides. But it's interesting when she was talking about the Allah thing, okay, the God. I like that because I've experienced that. How many in here have been to a performance where someone has transcended like that? Okay, a bunch of you, right? It's a great feeling. You know, I've been to shows like that. Actually, tonight I'm going to go see a band called Thievery Corporation. You can achieve that. Yeah, great band. Anyone going to be there? Okay, right, there you go. We'll hook up. We'll tweet up at Thievery Corporation. We'll be the two guys tweeting in the back row, you know. But the point is, you know, I pursue this. I look at this as a natural high. I like to do things that make me feel good. Now, music, it makes me feel good, okay? Speaking to a group makes me feel good. Teaching students makes me feel good. Social media makes me feel good. It's fun, you know, let me just say, you know, because one of the reasons I did this talk, teaching a new way to drive in Detroit, okay? I was raised in a Ford family, okay? I was raised in an automotive family. Growing up here, you were inundated with automotive advertising. Whether you see it on a Sunday football game watching the Lions, whether you go to the auto show, it's just part of the culture and the life. And I always wanted to work for an automotive company in advertising. Okay, I really did. It was just a goal of mine. When I went to Michigan State University, I studied advertising. I also studied a lot of extracurricular activities at Michigan State. It's a great place. But I graduated. I graduated with a degree in advertising. And what really sold me was, okay, what motivates people? What motivates people to purchase? What motivates people to come out and change their behaviors? And I wanted to go write commercials, be famous. You know, I wanted to do all those cool things. Does anyone in here watch Mad Men? Okay, a few of you, right? So you know, that was the dream they were selling, right? I don't know if it's a good dream or a bad dream, but you know, thinking about the idea, driving down with Tom Waits reminded me of Kinsey, who you know, had that brilliant idea in the middle of the night when he was drunk. And then he passed out, and in the morning he looked all over for the piece of paper that he wrote it on. And, you know, whatever, that was kind of funny. And the funny thing was, it all worked out. And the interesting part was, the next morning, okay, he came into his creative director with no idea. Okay, he had Peggy next to him, right? And they came in with no idea to their creative director. And Don Draper, who is like a godlike figure, the way they make him look on that show, even though he certainly has some issues, basically stood there and, you know, he listened to them, berated them a little bit, and then said, okay, that works, you know, when Peggy summed it up. And that was the idea. And so they all left, you know, they were happy, the problem was solved, and all Don had to do as the creative director was say, you know, I bless you, I bless your idea, go. To me that was very interesting, because that was someone who achieved this great, you know, pinnacle of success, supposedly, but yet what role do they play? You know, not much. You know, they weren't sweating it out. But so, anyways, that was what I wanted. You know, I worked as a writer. I've worked at the big automotive advertising agencies, and it was a great experience. It was. And but if you think about, you know, fighting that fight and the game, and we're still fighting the fight today. So now I have my own company, right? I started my own business in 2006 in Gen X Digital Marketing, and it's been a great experience. You know, it's been difficult. But still, every day, I'm still forced with the question of, okay, how do I solve problems for my clients? How do I help my clients achieve more? How do I help them win business? And we work for that, right? And when you work for that, you get paid. And then in the meantime, we get to play with all these cool toys. You know, Twitter, Facebook, we're blogging, we're doing all these things. We're listening to conversations that are happening online. And to me, it's more than work. It's fun. It's fun. Okay, so actually with this class, okay? I'm connected on LinkedIn. Anybody in here use LinkedIn? Okay, a bunch of you use LinkedIn, right? So I've spent some time building up my LinkedIn network, all right? I'm involved in other networking groups too. Inform Michigan. Terry Barkley is going to speak here a little bit later today. That's a women's business organization. I'm actually one of the few guys, so I really stand out. But I've made a good impression there. I put in a lot of service there. A2B3 is a big group in Ann Arbor with all these tech people that come together. And I'll tell you, you know, when I was first getting in, starting my business, I hung out there a lot because there was just a lot of knowledge being shared. I started a group called LA2M. We just hosted the lunch earlier today, which was an interesting experience. But the point is, LA2M, you know, every week we have lunches where we're teaching. You know, we have people out there who are really talented, like Ross Johnson down here in the second row, who speak and teach, right? And it's community. It's community. It's kind of like a mini TEDx every week, which is cool. And that's something that I helped start, and it's something that's good. And you don't necessarily get paid for it, but you do it. You know, it was interesting talking about the God thing, going back to that transcendence. You know, I believe that if, you know, you kind of look at it as there's two ways to look at things, right? With fear or with love, right? And if you look at things with love, then you really have nothing to worry about because everything's fine. If you look at them with fear, then you're really in trouble because your view is skewed. You know, so coming up here today, I looked at this with love, you know, and then the God thing, okay, that person, like she said the next morning, saying, will I ever be able to achieve that transcendent state again? You know, I'm just an older person with bad knees. And what I say to that is yes. Yes, you will. And I think we achieve it numerous times throughout our lives, you know. We just do. Whether you're in the audience experiencing it, watching someone experience it, whether you're running an event and everything's going smooth and you get in the zone, you know, whether you're in a relationship, everything's cool. I mean, that is God. And, you know, there's a funny joke, you know, if you think about somebody comes off the street, they go into their, say, you know, their doctor's office or whatever, and they say, hey, you know what? I realize that I'm God, and they take them off to the psychiatric ward, And then if you're in India, right, and the person comes in and they go to their school or whatever, they say, I realize I'm God. And they're like, well, congratulations, you finally achieved enlightenment. You see the difference in perspective? And it's tough because even, we are like, this is a business community, right? A lot of this is business people. And I think of TED, I think of ideas. Now, people are sharing their ideas that make a difference. The people that speak at TED have ideas that make a difference. So what's my idea? That was the question as I was hearing, and Chaz talking. I was outside kind of rehearsing the slides that I'm not showing you, but the point is, everyone cheered like crazy, and Terry Bean comes out, he's like, that was one of the best talks I've ever heard that guy gave. He said his big idea was great, and he explained what he did. So then I think, what's my big idea? Okay, new media driver's license, that's pretty cool. To me, that's pretty cool. This is fun. I have work, I'm building really nice websites for clients, doing a lot of search engine optimization. That's work, it's fun, and it allows me to really empower other people to do great things, which is important as a business owner. But then teaching, to me, that's really fun. We're expanding this program, New Media Driver's License. We started it last January, and actually Toby, who's in the back, who spoke at lunch, Toby, who's with a company called, I'm gonna space on it. Toby, what's the name of your company again? Anchor Intelligence, yes. Anchor Intelligence, and they track online traffic and make sure it's quality online traffic. Toby actually found me on LinkedIn and asked me to help him build the MSU Communication Arts and Sciences Alumni Group on LinkedIn, which I did. The reason he found me on LinkedIn, let me just say, was because I had a lot of connections, right? So he searched for MSU alumni, found me. And that group has since grown to over 1,500 alumni. All right, so that's impactful. It's amazing when you look at who's in that group, it's like a who's who of the industry. It's phenomenal. The students that Michigan State has pushed through over these years. And now I'm able to contribute. It's funny, I never really, school seems like a distant memory. To me, I did a lot of my learning, not so much in school, but in the real world. And now I'm able to come back, teach these students, okay, what works? How to use this new media technology. And we've pushed through about 200 plus students so far in the 1 year that we've been running this program. Next year, we're gonna start doing 400 students a year, which is growth. And we're also looking at, we're starting now some corporate training. So corporations are actually taking their people through the new media driver's license, because we believe that in order for a company to successfully run a new media campaign, the people need to be empowered. It's like, do you teach them to fish or do you cook them dinner? Which one's going to yield more results? So we believe in both. And then also we're doing some partnerships. We're in the process of brokering a deal right now with Google. So what does that mean? That means we're going to have better content. It means we're going to have a more robust offering. We're going to expand the program. And that's pretty cool. And I'm not saying I'm going to be a full-time professor, even though I love Michigan State University, my alma mater. It's a little bit of both, because as Rick Cole, who's my boss up at MSU, he says, listen, man, he says, I need you to run a business. I know you're a great teacher. I need you to run a business, because you need to go out into the real world and really succeed, and you need to learn what it takes to succeed. And then I want you to come back and take your experiences, and I want you to teach these kids. And you have to do both. And that's one of the reasons, people come up to me and they're like, Derek, when do you find time to do this? Everything, If you follow me on Facebook, you might think that. And the point is, you just got to get it done. And this whole new way to drive in Detroit means, pursue your dreams. I think understand new media and have a lot of fun in it. This is an example of someone who's built a career of having fun, helping clients, of success stories. And to me, it's been a wonderful ride. And with that, I'm going to end. Thank you.